get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia. 9 till 10, we take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour with Sipiso Makwetla. And we close it up with some love. The Hotlines with Shailen Dikumana. 10 till 12 p.m. on Channel Africa. Across borders, across time zones. On air, online. This is Channel Africa. Africa has a voice, and that voice is Channel Africa. It keeps you in motion, speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tebogo Lepoleni and
South Africa and Channel Africa Radio from an African perspective. I'm Lulu Kabu. I'm in studio with Onele Ntinti, Msibudi Makura, and Chanduko Lekeke. Coming up in this hour.
It is very concerning that these latest incidents come barely 2 weeks after more than 15 protesters were reportedly killed and many more injured.
The United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights expressed concerns regarding the violence and death toll in Kenya.
At this point, we say we have made a great step and achieved a significant milestone in our course of the struggle for independence.
And South Sudan marks its 14th independence anniversary today. But first up, the news with Onele Nzinzi and our sports headlines with Msibudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights says the number of people killed in Monday's anti-government protests in Kenya has now risen to 31, sparking public outrage and calls for justice. The state-run commission previously said that 11 people had died, more than 100 people were injured, and about 532 arrested in the protests, with which the capital Nairobi and other major cities. The UN said it was deeply troubled by the killings and criticized the Kenyan police for using lethal ammunition against protesters. The Kenya police still say that 11 people have died. Meanwhile, the chairperson of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, Peterson Wachira, says they have put government on notice to ensure the safety of their members during demonstrations. At least 2 hospitals in Kenya sustained damage during protests to mark the 35th anniversary of pro-democracy rallies. Tensions have been running high in the East African nation since the death of blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody last month. It brought people back onto the streets this a year after anti-government protesters stormed parliament. Wachira explains.
What we have done is that we have put government on notice that if they are not going to ensure that the safety of our members is guaranteed during the next demos and especially in the hotspots, then we are going to invoke the provisions of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, which provides that if any worker, not only a health worker, feels that their safety is compromised, then they're expected to withdraw their services and themselves until remedial actions can be taken.
South Africa's Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has admitted knowing Northwest-based businessman Brown Mokgotsi. In a statement, he, however, says the man is his comrade and not an associate. Mchunu has also denied ever meeting controversial businessman Vusumuzi Kat Matlala, an alleged criminal mastermind and tender king, while Mokgotsi is alleged to be politically connected. The police minister's statement follows KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's damning allegations at the weekend that Mchunu and senior police officials were involved in corruption and interfered crime in fighting operations. Police Ministry spokesperson Kamokhelo Mokgotsi.
The minister has never met Mr. Matlala, has never spoken to him, nor has the minister ever requested or received anything from him. The minister did, however, initiate a review of the SAPS tender awarded to him when suspicions of possible wrongdoing surfaced. It was the same tender which has since been terminated. Furthermore, whilst the minister knows and has met Mr. Brown Mogotsi, he is just a comrade and not an associate of the minister. The minister has never requested or received anything from him.
Teenage pregnancy in South Africa has reached critical levels, posing significant risks to the health, rights, education and socio-economic future of young girls across the country. During a stakeholders engagement convened by the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities in Pretoria on Monday morning, UNAID said South Africa's Country Director Eva Kiwongo highlighted the urgent need for comprehensive intervention to curb this ongoing challenge, while recalling late former South Africa's Deputy President David Mabuza's words on teenage pregnancy. According to official statistics, over 34,000 teenage pregnancies were recorded in the year 2020, including nearly 700 cases involving girls younger than 10. Underscoring the severity of the crisis confronting South Africa's societies, Kiwongo explains.
In 2021, Stats SA report showed that there were 34,000 cases of teenage pregnancy in 2020, and 668 of those were girls younger than 10 years old. I recall the former deputy president in his capacity as the SANAC chairperson when he was speaking at a SANAC event in KZN, how he slammed the rising numbers of teenage pregnancy in the country, and he described teenage pregnancy as a blight on the moral standing of our society.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Morocco wants to bounce back while the Democratic Republic of Congo wants to survive as the second round fixtures of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament kick off today. And Iga Swiatek bidding for a semi-final berth at Wimbledon. Details of these and other stories coming up at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Thank you to Msibudi Makura with our sports headlines and Onilin Zinzi with our news update. 7 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, on OpenV channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. And join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 hashtag Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459. And today on hashtag Africa Update asks, in your opinion, how should host countries incorporate foreign nationals, and what can foreign nationals do to build their host countries? This is the question of the day on hashtag Africa Update asks. Let us know your views and your thoughts on all our social media platforms.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Our SABC Sports brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. I'll stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Now, don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu on Channel Africa.
Now, Defend Our Democracy is calling on South Africa's President, Cyril Ramaphosa, to address the nation following damning revelations by the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. Mkhwanazi has accused Minister Mchunu and senior South African Police Service officials of meddling in police operations. The movement has also called a full independent judicial commission of inquiry into the criminal capture of the Criminal Justice and Security Services. And to discuss this further, we are joined on the line by Defend Our Democracy Executive Director Naledi Kuali. Naledi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners, and thank you for having us.
Now, how urgent is it for President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the nation, and what risk do you see if he delays his response? As he did say, he was going to be going on a consultative sort of approach with regards to speaking to certain people.
We believe that this matter is it's a national emergency, and we require robust and immediate action. So the consultation process can take place with certain steps already having been taken. When you look at the nature of the allegations, the levels that they speak to, and the institutions involved, you find that there is no room for delay, there is no room for dilly-dallying. And the people of South Africa need to be put at ease that there is an action in place and that this is something the President is addressing urgently and with decisive action.
What key points should the President include in his address? Just to ensure, you've touched on it slightly, but what should he hone in on with regards to restoring public confidence in the SAPS and addressing concerns that about alleged interference in police operations?
The first point of departure is a full investigation, suspension, pending a full investigation, just to assure the people of South Africa that there will be no interference in this process. And what that suspension will do, it will allow for those who are accused to not be in any position or capacity to interfere with the investigation process. Secondly, there needs to be some accountability when it comes to the levels of interference that we've seen. The President needs to account, and he needs to speak to the idea that there is a high level of interference, there is a complete dereliction of duty, and there is an erosion of the public's trust in South Africa's institutions. And I want to highlight that these institutions are institutions that are tasked with protecting South Africans, and they are tasked with upholding the rule of law. And when you find that the people accused and senior officials are being accused of interference, of sharing confidential information that has a huge impact on people like whistleblowers and confidential informants, then there needs to be a loud response from the President.
Defend Our Democracy is advocating for an independent judicial commission of inquiry into criminal capture of the Criminal Justice and Security Services. What specific outcomes or reforms do you hope this inquiry will achieve?
Firstly, we need clarity in terms of the rate of interference and the extent of the interference and what has been impacted by this interference. We need transparency within the context of reform, and we need accountability. So when we are speaking to what is going to be found by an inquiry, we need an openness and a willingness to engage in terms of what would be the best way going forward. So if you're going to have untainted professionals doing public oversight, that will restore institutional integrity. That will instill faith in our institutions. And it will also give South Africans an opportunity to engage and contribute to the restoration of this institutional integrity. So the reason for a commission is also to give us context and to allow for us to work with information that has been investigated and verified, as opposed to putting us in a position where we have to speculate and we have to speak to elements that are really unfounded, or we have to limit ourselves to what is being shared on Twitter and what's being shared in gossip. An inquiry will establish what is the truth and what is not, and how we build from there.
How do you assess the impact of Commissioner Mkhwanazi's decision to make these public allegations? And what is your response to critics who argue he violated protocol by bypassing internal channels? And in the same breath, there's also the question of he could have tried the internal channels but did not get responses or a response that he was looking for.
We presently have no confirmation that internal channels were not followed. We have no confirmation that certain people were not informed of this. And when you look at the nature of the allegations and the type of matters that are alleged to have been taken off the Toxins table and the work that was being done by the Organized Crime Unit, what you're going to say is that we are speculating that there were no attempts to inform the relevant powers that be. And secondly, when you look at the history of South Africa, when it pertains to matters of whistleblowers, one of the things that is recommended is for you to come to the public and share what it is that you have found. And what has happened since Commissioner Mkhwanazi has shared this information is that it has forced a national dialogue. It has forced us to sit up. It has forced us to engage and to say what is happening cannot stand. And we have no way of knowing whether or not this information would ever have been shared if it was purely through the relevant channels. But I say this with absolutely no confirmation that the Commissioner himself had not tried to engage the relevant powers that be. So I want to say we're working mostly from the speculation that there was no attempt.
Now, the allegations suggest a deep-seated syndicate involving politicians, police, and other officials. How can an inquiry ensure it remains impartial and protected from potential interference by those implicated, given the high-level figures allegedly involved?
Firstly, I think we need to look at the methodology of vetting people appointed to this inquiry. We need to ensure that we are able to assess the bodies that are put on this inquiry, that there are people who are trusted, there are people who have not had allegations of corruption and interference attached to their names. And what you find is that South Africa does have the capacity to establish whether or not someone has the capacity and has the reputation to sit on an inquiry. And once you have established that, then the transparency of the process is what will allow you to measure whether or not there's been interference, whether or not there's been undue influence. So it starts with ensuring that the people you put in the position to actually run and facilitate this inquiry are people who themselves have displayed a level of integrity and have shown a commitment to the people of South Africa.
And just in wrapping up, Naledi, what role do you believe civil society organizations like Defend Our Democracy can play in ensuring accountability and supporting the integrity of the criminal justice system in light of these revelations?
Defend Our Democracy and other civil society organizations remain committed to calls for accountability and transparency, and that's one of the pivotal roles that we play. We operate outside of a system where there is this overarching benefit to either get votes or to get some sort of financial reward for the work that's done. So when you see the work that is done on the ground, you find that there is a call. There are demands for justice. There are demands for transparency and openness around corruption. There is this demand to protect our democracy as a fundamental way of operating within this country. So the role that we play is to continue to support the voices of the people that operate at grassroots level. It is the need for transparency, but it is also the need to highlight that accountability must be the status quo, and pointing out when government falls short, when pointing out when institutions fall short, and also keeping into the national consciousness the memory of those who have stood up and said, something is wrong here, something needs to be investigated, and people need to be held account. So it's also the responsibility of South Africans and civil society organizations to keep the memory alive, to say that we will fight for accountability, we will fight for transparency, and we will also remember those who came before us and did the same. That way, the call is never silenced and the movement is not weakened.
Naledi, thank you for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today. That was Defend Our Democracy Executive Director Naledi Kuali joining us on the line. It is 19 after 12 Central African Time.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So when you think of African music, you think of Kwasa Kwasa, high life music from West Africa, Afrobeat from West Africa, of gospel music or faith music or spiritual music. But when we think of reggae music, we go to the Caribbean, and if it's Africa, we only think about Lucky Dube. Well, I'm here to introduce you to some reggae music from Africa. Salif Keita with Dakan Fair from Mali. And I must say, this one was a real shock for me because I never had imagined Salif Keita on a reggae beat. But listening to him, it just proved to me how versatile he is as an artist because you'd be expecting him to be on that vibe of West Africa, of ballads. But he really proved that he is very versatile, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
The Democratic Republic of Congo's former Minister of Justice, Constant Mutamba, is appearing in a public hearing before the Court of Cassation. He is expected to answer charges brought against him by the Attorney General regarding alleged misappropriation of public funds. Now, to tell us more, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in the DRC, Jimmy Shukrani. Jimmy, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Now, tell us about what is unfolding at this public hearing. Has the former Justice Minister appeared in court yet?
Yes, thank you so much. 1 hour ago, Constant Mutamba just arrived in front of the Court of Cassation in Kinshasa, the capital of the DRC. And is this Wednesday, of course, as the highly anticipated by the trio of opposition leaders, Constant Mutamba. He just highly concerned announced some strict measures, and what was visible since when Constant Mutamba arrived in front of the Cassation Court is more than many members of his party, Nojek, which are present in the court just in order to support leader Constant Mutamba, treasure and the transparency of broadcast proceeding. The learning will be just broadcasting online on just the national TV, but until now there is many disturbing in front of the court where Constant Mutamba and his supporters are in front of the court waiting the word of beginning this proceeding.
Now, he's facing charges regarding misappropriation of funds. Tell us more about, how this unfolded and why he's basically sitting in the court, and what sort of amounts are we looking at?
Yes, the former Minister of Justice is accused of the misappropriation of more than 18 million of US dollars. And those funds were, according to the court, was just maybe appropriate to intervene in the rehabilitation of some infrastructure, like to rebuild the Kisangani prison, which was in a bad situation, and we did not allow to the detainees just to be in the good conditions, and to build again some apartment, of course, of detention house in Kisangani. But always the team of Constant Mutamba and his party, they deny what the justice is trying to charge against him, and is just telling due to some messages which are spreading in social media Constant Mutamba was just looking for this is a political problem, because according to him, he didn't want to integrate the situation and to be in such situation which is happening in the DRC. But until now, Constant Mutamba is telling the press that this situation will put end, but the justice also ensure the Congolese that these proceedings will just pass in lightness in order to help others who want to misappropriate the funds which are intervened to build something and to help the Congolese, just to put them out of and find some sanction. Is that this time what we can know about this misappropriation and these charges against the Constant Mutamba?
Now, Jimmy, just in wrapping up, previously the former minister has claimed bias and enmity. Can you elaborate on this, but very briefly? And does he have a footing regarding this?
Yes, maybe one of the members of the party, NOJEC, the political party of Constant Mutamba. They just began by showing some actions which are not, which according to the Minister of Interior and Security does not just respect the Congolese law. But until now, there's some Mutambi's supporters, they are still be facing and they are doing some actions which are not so good according to the Congolese government, and they are to terrorize them just to put them in front of justice if this can keep on. But the situation is still now be misunderstandable in the court and out of the court, and until now we are waiting maybe if this situation will be just followed well, and we will be following this proceeding just to know what will be the decision just after this. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much.
As our correspondent in the DRC, Jimmy Shukrani, joining us on the line. It is 27 after 12 Central African time. The death toll from anti-government protests in Kenya on Monday has risen to 31, marking the highest single-day toll since the demonstrations began earlier this year. This is according to the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. Meanwhile, the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights expressed concerns regarding the violence and death toll. Ravina Shamdasani is the spokesperson for the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights.
We are deeply troubled by the killings as well as looting and destruction of property in Kenya as police and other security forces responded to violent protests in the capital of Nairobi and at least 16 other counties. Lethal ammunition, rubber bullets, tear gas, and water cannons were used. It is very concerning that these latest incidents come barely 2 weeks after more than 15 protesters were reportedly killed and many more injured in Nairobi and in other parts of Kenya on the 25th of June. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, renews his call for calm and restraint and full respect for the freedoms of expression, association, and peaceful assembly. It is essential that legitimate grievances at the root of these protests are addressed. We note that the police have announced an investigation into earlier incidents. The High Commissioner repeats his call for all reported killings and other alleged violations and abuses of international human rights law, including with respect to the use of force, to be promptly, thoroughly, independently, and transparently investigated. Those responsible must be held to account.
That was Ravina Shamdasani, the spokesperson for the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, ending that report. Continue with us on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11 714 4459. Today's question on #Africa Updates asks, we want to find out what your opinion is with regards to host countries incorporating foreign nationals, and what can foreign nationals do to build their host countries. Let us know what your views and your thoughts or your comments on these questions, and that's on all our social media platforms. It is 12:30 and our news headlines up next with Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights says the number of people killed in Monday's anti-government protests in Kenya has now risen to 31, sparking public outrage and calls for justice. The state-run commission previously said that 11 people had died. South Africa's National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola says they are ready to brief President Cyril Ramaphosa on KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's recent allegations. Mkhwanazi alleged during a media briefing on Sunday that senior police officials were working with syndicates to cover up high-profile crimes. And the United States has announced sweeping changes to its non-immigrant visa policy for Nigeria, cutting the duration and conditions under which most Nigerian travelers can enter the country. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Onele. We say good afternoon to Msibudi Makura with our sports update.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good morning. Good afternoon from the sports desk. We'll start with the story. So Paris Saint-Germain head coach Luis Enrique has described their FIFA Club World Cup semi-final showdown between the European champions as well as Real Madrid as special, but also dismissed questions over his relationship with Kylian Mbappe ahead of a reunion with the superstar striker. So PSG came to the USA for the tournament fresh from winning the UEFA Champions League for the very first time in a season following Mbappe's departure for Real. The winners of today's semi-final will advance to the final on Sunday, where Chelsea lie in wait after the English side defeated Fluminense 2-0 in Tuesday's other semi-final match. On the continent now, Uganda's technical team has reduced its CHAN 2024 squad to 29 players, with co-coaches Morley Bekwazo as well as Fred Muyumuza also narrowing down their options ahead of the Continental Showpiece in August. The announcement follows an intensive training session held at the prison ground in Luriza as the Cranes ramp up their preparations for the 7th appearance in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship Tournament. The tournament will be co-hosted by Uganda, Kenya as well as Tanzania from the 2nd until the 30th of August. Former Cranes captain Dennis Onyango has temporarily joined the technical bench to assist with the goalkeeping duties during the squad's camp. The Mamelodi Sundowns shot stopper came back home on the off-season and is expected to provide vital mentorship to Uganda's 4 goalkeepers that will be participating in the upcoming competition. So this trimmed squad is not final but also represents a key phase in the selection, with the coaching duo also said to announce a final 23-man squad before the tournament is set to kick off. Uganda, by the way, are drawn in Group C and will face a stern test from Algeria, Guinea, Niger as well as South Africa in the same pool. The Cranes will open their campaign against Algeria on the 4th of August at the Nabole Stadium. On to some cricket news now. The Proteas set a national record of 10 consecutive test wins. This after completing an innings and a 236-run victory over Zimbabwe on the 3rd day in Bulawayo, wrapping up the series 2-0. The Proteas ran through the rest of the Zimbabwe batting order in the post-lunch session on day 3 to power their way to a thumping innings. Proteas coach Shukri Conrad says the boxes were duly ticked and he's pleased that the team were able to give some high performance levels throughout the course of this year's Test series against Zimbabwe.
I think the important and the impressive thing for me was how we managed to keep the standards as high as we We set them both the first test and the second test batting first. We found ourselves in a little bit of trouble against the new ball, and then how the youngsters Luandre and Brewe managed that in the first test, and the same in the second. We found ourselves in trouble, and then Vian played a monumental knock.
Meanwhile, there were numerous individual performances that have caught Conrad's attention, most notably Luandre Pretoria's 235 runs, as well as Sima Kodi Yusuf 10 wickets, as well as the coach now certainly feels they now are part of the discussions moving forward.
To lose a special talent without wanting to jump the gun, I think it's hard to ignore what he's done here. So he's definitely in the discussion for the subcontinent later. I mean, you can see Kodi. You can see the value of a really good domestic season. You can see the value of a short stint with Durham in the counties setup. He's a completely, well, let's not say completely, but it's certainly a lot more disciplined. Really good skill set and hugely impressive. Again, and we talk of gaining a measure of control. He certainly gives you that with a new ball, and he set the tone for us.
And finally, in basketball news, the defending champion of the Women's Afro-Basket Tournament, the Tigress of Nigeria, will begin their title defense against Rwanda on the 26th of July, the opening day of the competition in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, which runs from the 26th of July until the 3rd of August. Now, the Nigerian ladies side, who are also drawn in Group D with Mozambique, will also play Mozambique on the 28th of July to decide who tops the group before going into the quarterfinals, which will then begin on the 30th of July.
The winners of the 4 groups will qualify automatically for the quarterfinals, while the second and third teams in each group will play a qualifying series to determine who joins the group leaders in the last 8. Group A consists of hosts Cote d'Ivoire, Angola and Egypt. Group B has Mali, Cameroon and South Sudan, while Group C and D have Senegal, Uganda and Guinea, as well as Nigeria, Rwanda and Mozambique, respectively. Reigning champions, the Tigress, who are chasing a record-extending 7th Afro-Basketball title, will be looking to recover from a quarter-final exit at the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Well, for any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makure.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. This Mandela Month, Channel Africa invites you to walk in the footsteps of a giant. From the prison yard of Robben Island to the halls of the United Nations, Nelson Mandela's legacy reminds us that service, compassion, and justice are the building blocks of real freedom.
En cette journée Mandela, que nos actions fassent écho à son héritage.
Alionyesha dunia ya kwamba sauti moja yaweza kuhamasisha mataifa.
Mandela ensinou-nos que a liberdade não é dada, mas sim conquistada através da coragem e sacrifício.
Join us as we reflect, remember, and reignite the spirit of Madiba across the continent. This is more than a day. It's a call to action. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Oh, thank you to Msibudi Makura with our sports update. And we say good afternoon to Chanduko Legege with our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu, and good afternoon. West African cocoa production, which has faced 2 successive below-average harvests, is likely to see another 10% decline in the upcoming 2025-26 season, despite marginally improved weather conditions. Ivory Coast and Ghana, the world's 2 leading producers, along with Nigeria and Cameroon, account for over 2/3 of global cocoa output. But they are struggling with shifting weather patterns, aging tree stocks, disease and destructive small-scale gold mining, pod counters employed by cocoa exporters and trading houses are currently visiting plantations to carry out crop assessments for the 2025-26 season, which opens in October.
The Uganda National Oil Company is seeking a joint venture partner to help operate an exploration block in Uganda's west. The Ugandan state-owned firm acquired the 1,285 square kilometer Kasuruban exploration block in 2023 after signing a production sharing agreement with the government. The company's spokesperson Angela Ambaho did not share details of how much equity the company was prepared to share with the new partner in the venture. The sharing agreement was initially signed for 2 years and is subject to 2 renewals for the same period. Former senior economist at the UN, Bernard Owanji, says the U.S. would benefit if it were to increase trade relations with Africa for geopolitical reasons. Owanji's comments come as the U.S. increased pressure on its trading partners this week, sending to heads of several countries, including South Africa and Tunisia, informing them of their new tariff rate. The tariffs, which were scheduled to come to effect today, have now been pushed back, with the exception of China, to the 1st of August. Owanji explains.
But we tried to engage in trade with the United States being the largest economy in the world. So they have to trade with the United States to earn foreign exchange. And the U.S. also is keen to have trading partners in Africa for geopolitical reasons. So it's each side is set to win when you develop trade.
South Africa's Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, says government's effort to get off the international grey list are progressing well. South Africa was grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force in 2023, flagging concerns over anti-money laundering programs and the problem of counter-terrorist financing. Some members of parliament have complimented the National Treasury's efforts that may lead to the country being removed from the grey list early next year. Delivering the Treasury's vote in parliament, Godongwana says government's wise approach has assisted the process.
But to complement and finalize this work, a general laws anti-money laundering and combating terrorism finance bill to further improve our ability to combat money laundering, terrorism financing, and proliferation financing is being finalized for another round of public comment and tabling in Parliament in the quarter of 2025.
Eurozone government bond yields were little changed as investors took U.S. President Donald Trump's plans for additional import levies in their stride on the day when his original 90-day tariff pause was due to expire. Trump broadened his trade war late on Tuesday, threatening a 50% tariff on imposed copper and levies on the pharmaceutical and semiconductor industries. This is just 1 day after announcing larger tariffs on 14 trade partners, including Japan and South Korea. Let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 529. Botswana 13.19. Kenya the dollar is at 128 shilling 494, and Zambia 24 kwacha 17. $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 46, Russia 78 rubles 43, India 85 rupees 72, China 71.17, South Africa 17 rand 79 cents. $1 is 73 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $3,288, platinum at $1,346 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil $70.67 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Oh, thank you to Chanduko Legege with our business news. It is 12:43 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Mzansi, this is more than just a game, it's a celebration of history. 30 years ago, the Springboks united our nation with that iconic Rugby World Cup victory, and now the mighty Boks are back. Don't miss South Africa versus Italy in the 30th anniversary commemoration match this Saturday on the 12th of July at 4 o'clock Central African Time. Watch it live on SABC2 or stream it anywhere on SABC Plus app. Download the SABC Plus app today on iOS, Android or your smart TV and switch to stream. No subscription. SABC Sport, for the love of the game.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gabu on Channel Africa.
The tensions over scarce resources and limited opportunities in South Africa will only subside if the country shifts from a hosting approach to an empowerment approach. Now, these are the words of Jarell Loemba, a multi-award-winning social entrepreneur, activist, speaker and artist. The comments come on the back of tensions in South Africa regarding foreigners accessing healthcare in the country. Jarell now joins us on the line to elaborate further. Jarell, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. It's a pleasure to be among you guys, and hi to all the listeners.
Now, Jarell, you took to Facebook with a message to foreigners and South Africans alike. Why did you decide to do that now?
I decided to do that because, to be frank with you, I've actually been sharing this message for a while. But last week, I actually decided to share it on social media, okay, based on all the current tensions that were happening. So I actually decided to be able to draw some, to put some light on this issue and educate mainly foreigners on the difference between xenophobia and patriotism, and also proposing solutions in order to deal with all these immigration influx and tensions.
Now, let's talk about the shifting from a hosting approach to an empowerment approach. Talk to us about that. Unpack it for us.
All right. That's perfect. I actually call it the Beaver and African Parrot strategy. That's actually a strategy that I've actually put in place as an activist. For those of you who actually know, at the moment when we're dealing with the UN and every program that is related to displaced people, refugees, everything is based on hosting and inclusion, all right? But there is nothing actually focused on empowering the people in order to be able to change the countries of origin. And this lack of empowerment program is actually leading to all the tensions that we are having. And it's not just in South Africa. The same situation is happening in the UK, in France, in Morocco. And if we have to come back to Africa, just to be specific, South Africa and Morocco are among the few countries in Africa that we can call as progress nations, developed nations, right, compared to other African nations. So it's actually a blessing, all right, as a nation to be developed, but at the same time, it can become a curse. That's what I call the oasis curse. Just like in the wilderness, when there's no water, everybody will rush to the closest oasis in order to get water, food, and rest. And that's the current situation of South Africa and Morocco. All the nations around Africa are leaving the country due to economic pressure, political operations. They come to South Africa, all right? That's the hosting plan. That's great. Inclusion, wonderful. But after a certain period, people will start feeling the tensions on the cultural level, on the resources level, and opportunity level. So the solution in order to resolve this issue is to put in place, the South African government needs to work with the UN, the Human Rights Commission, in order to put in place a program that is going to locate the reasons why each group has decided to leave the country, and put in place an empowerment program in order to allow these people, while they're being hosted in South Africa, to learn how to change things in their own countries. All right, just like the beaver and the African parrot. The beaver is known for changing the course of a river. So it creates new paths of water into dry area. So that will allow the animals on the other side of the river to be able to blossom and live peacefully without crossing on the other side of the river, leading to tensions with other animals. So as you can see, animals are even giving us lessons on how to deal with immigration influx. And it's the same issue. The same thing can be said about the African grey parrot. It is actually known after eating a fruit, the African parrot will fly and go on places where there is no land, where there's no trees and fruits and so forth. It will start dropping the seeds in these areas in order to allow the area that was dry to start producing fruit and give life and allow animals in that area to be able to live. So that's exactly what the beaver and African parrot strategy is all about. We need to shift from hosting to empowering refugees. When a refugee comes to South Africa, a foreigner, people need to locate the reason. Are you coming here because of economic pressure in your country? All right, it has to be allocated into a specific group. Are you coming because of injustice in your country? They need to be trained on how to fight injustice in the country, just like South Africa did during apartheid. We in my country, Congo Brazzaville, right? We gave a huge province to Namibian and South African who fled due to the apartheid tensions, right? So they were given this province, they were hosted, they were given free healthcare and all the good stuff. But the South Africans and the Namibians were focused on actually changing things in their own countries. So they were given the resources to be able to fight the injustice in order to change the nation. And once that goal was achieved, most of the South Africans living in my country returned to South Africa in order to live their dream in the homeland, in order to build the country.
Now, Joel, you know, what you are speaking about is very pertinent, especially now, when we look at some foreign leaders who are in the country from different countries who actually say they've built a home in South Africa. They're not looking to go back to re-establish themselves and rebuild their own countries. In that case, what happens?
Okay, in that case, that's what I call the purpose law, the law of purpose, right? Whether we like it or not, like in America, we have people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's actually from Australia and decided to go to America and he became a governor there. Good for him. That was his purpose. We have people like Trevor Noah, who decided to go to America to reach a higher level on his regarding his purpose. Today is big, is a blessing, and he's a global brand for South Africa. But now he's thinking about coming back. So we have people, all right, whether you like it or not, their destinies are meant to be fulfilled in a foreign land, either for a moment or for good. But that's not the case for all the refugees. So we are talking about maybe 5 to 10% of people that are meant to fulfill their purpose elsewhere or have to work overseas due to a job deployment and so forth. But 80 to 90% of people in South Africa, they came in South Africa simply because of the lack of opportunities in the countries, economic tension, oppression from the leaders. I will give you the example of Congo Brazzaville. Right now, the government sent a letter to the government of South Africa telling them that there is now peace in Congo Brazzaville, there is no war, but it is actually a lie. As I'm talking to you right now, we've been running several campaigns in order to stop and change the regime in Congo Brazzaville because they oppress the students. They have no boundary. The people are not paid. Can you imagine that? Like you're working for SABC and you're not paid for 1 year. This is what's happening in Congo, yet the country is full of wealth. Their children are living like kings. There is no healthcare system. The president and the government members, whenever they have a mere headache, they travel to France and overseas in order to be treated, while the people on the ground have no access to healthcare. So what's going to be the only survival instinct? The people are going to try to look for the closest oasis, leading them to Morocco, South Africa, and some of them actually managed to go to Europe and America. So that's the reason why I also talk about the inter-nation accountability channel that needs to be put in place between the diplomats, okay, of South Africa and Congo Brazzaville. The opposition leaders as well needs in the political parties. In the opposition, they need to be involved in the AU, African Union, because at the moment, African Union is nothing elsewhere but a gang of presidents protecting each other. So we need more opposition leaders from the DA, from EFF, from PA, all these people, they need to be involved into the AU in order to be able to create a balance in terms of opinion and the way things are run. And they will be able to address these issues. And activists also should be involved in that process to create that inter-nation accountability so that Africa can be able to take the phone and say, hey, Congo-Brazzaville, we have a lot of people from your country that are coming here. We don't mind hosting them, but these are the issues. They're complaining about oppression, freedom of expression. But here in South Africa, we have freedom of expression. And as African countries, based on the chart, the human rights chart that South Africa signed, that Congo-Brazzaville signed, they have the duty to hold each other accountable. So the government of South Africa, the Minister of Immigration should be able to call the Minister of Immigration in Congo-Brazzaville and tell them, this is the issue that we've noticed. And what is happening in your country is not acceptable. You need to take care of your people. Because at the end of the day, when you don't do your job, all the African nations are going to pay the cost. And we will not be able to take care of our own people. So that's what I call the Inter-Nation Accountability Channel. That's another program that needs to be put in place in order to allow reports on exchange of reports to see exactly what's happening in these countries, what is causing the people to leave, and address these matters with the presidents, the government, and all the stakeholders involved.
And very quickly, just in wrapping up, Joel, what sort of response are you getting on all the social media platforms, especially Facebook?
Yeah, I'm actually getting a lot of response, including on TikTok as well. Okay, and we have a lot of. We are also planning actually on having a meeting with Omar First in order to address these issues, because I'm also a member of Amnesty International. And I think that this is something that needs to be taken seriously if we want this immigration influx and the tensions related to scarce resources to end. Because closing the borders, I can tell you right now, you can close the borders as you want. When someone wants to survive, they will find a way to come in. So the solution is to use the Beaver and African Parrot strategy. Empower the refugees, empower the people so that they may be able to address injustice in the country, economic solution. If there is drought, they don't have water, teach them how to create wells, how to create water solutions so that they may be able to go back in the country and be prosperous in their homeland.
Joel, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
It was a pleasure.
That's Joel Lowemba, a multi-award-winning social entrepreneur, activist, speaker, and artist, joining us on the line.
We are on OpenView's audio bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update with Lulu Kapu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, it is that time of the day. It's Happy Hump Day. It's Happy Wednesday. Hello. And we'll say good afternoon to Tabukholo Kuleni of the Upside team. How are you doing today?
Hello, Lulu. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Why do you look a bit...
Because we're going to be talking about smoothies that are good for your skin. I'm like...
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, you subscribe to such smoothies and the raw juices.
Yes, and all the goodies. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of work for me. But we'll be talking about, smoothies that will make your skin glow, especially this winter season. And then we also have a conversation with a representative from SARS.
Okay.
About their their current campaign, which is Smart Taxpayers Do the Right Thing. We'll be getting into the nitty-gritties of why the specific theme and what taxpayers can do to be a bit more smarter in filing their taxes and what challenges they're currently experiencing. And then we talk about skin products that are good for your baby. 100% natural products that are good for your baby. There's a company that is specializing in that, and so we'll be unpacking that. And because I know parents, they really invest a lot of time and research into ensuring that they get the right product for their kids that is not going to affect their skin, anything like that. So we'll be looking forward to this particular conversation. That's all coming up.
Well, that's the upside coming up at the top of the hour with Matsiko and Tabukholo Likhuleni. And you do stay tuned. All things skin and babies and natural.
Yes.
Hey, that's the way to. And SARS,
Smooth.
very, very, very key.
And SARS, very important.
Most definitely. That's how we wrap Africa Update today. Thank you to our team, our producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Nanda Koza, and social media Elaine Bengani. It's been a good one. Continue with us on our social media platforms, and let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
9 to 12 midday Central African Time. On the Move with Palisa Tau and Benjamin Mushatami.
Should influence